Welcome, 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 everyone. There you go. My name is Nina Sachs from Yoga-Awakening Africa. I am so happy to be here. I am thrilled that I get to speak to my friend Jane, just Jane, from Breathe Alive. Jane, welcome. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you, Nina. It's absolutely amazing to be here. Thank you. It's
Cool,
lovely.
cool. I know we must have met. I'm trying to think. It must have been over 10 years ago when I was doing Yoga Awakening Africa, the magazine. And I remember I had like my magazines that were ready for sale, and I'd come to your studio and I'd come and deliver them. And here was this like biker chick teaching yoga. I still remember that part of you. I'm just trying to think, do you remember the first time we met or?
I think it was actually when years ago when we used to go to the yoga therapy group. And I think we also had, that's where you had just started the magazine. And it was like, and I met, and I thought, I have to get to know this woman. She's amazing. I love her to bits. And it was like one of my highlights. Going I think we were doing an anatomy training or something. And
Jackie, it was Jackie Cooper,
yes,
something like that.
that's
Yes.
exactly it. And then I would walk in, and even though I was very much a green yoga teacher, I hadn't been doing yoga very long. And all of you guys just embraced me as if I was part of you. And it was my yoga teacher at the time, Kay, used to go, come on, Jane, we need to go. And we did, and it was so much fun, like meeting Estrelita, yourself, Mario Elaine. Um, it was just such a highlight. And then you started doing the magazine, and it was like, wow. Yes, and I had to be one of the distributors because I just so enjoyed what you do.
Oh yeah, and you've been such a fantastic support, Jen, and I love kind of like over the years, just kind of like also noticing and observing the growth and the changes and how things have evolved and progressed for you, which is so cool. And then kind of like this year, we really just kind of like caught up a little bit more intensely with regards to when you joined the clean eating challenge in October, and we're just like I don't know.
Yes.
It's like one of those like old friendships, like when you like meet the person again, it's kind of like boom, okay, cool, like fireworks, and you get on and you catch up with everything that's been going on. So I think that's kind of like where we've been now recently, which has been very exciting for me at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Cool. So tell me, Jane, how like what got you hooked on yoga, like right in the beginning? What made you decide like this is yoga? I want to keep doing this. This is making me feel good.
So I'll be absolutely honest with you. As you know, I'd say always have gone against a little bit against the grain.
And that's what
Like
I
my mom told me, don't ride a motorbike. So I learned to ride a motorbike. So I was told, don't do yoga. And I go, no, I want to know why I cannot do yoga because I come from quite a Christian background. And I thought to myself, no, there's got to be a reason. And I started studying that. And the more I got into it, the more books I opened up. I met you lot. And I thought to myself, I just so enjoy all this newness. And then I went and did a trip to Israel. It was a study trip to Israel. It was a whole year of preparation. And I remember sitting on the steps of the old city in the old city, and we had a teaching at the back of us was one of the doorways that had been closed off by the Turks. And I thought, there is more to life. Because these steps were uneven. It's like one of those funny moments that might have meant my friend thought I was totally bonkers. But to me, it made sense. And that's when I came, and it was my yoga training. It was one crisis actually over another because yoga meets us where we are. And this is what I always say: if you're busy, if you have a busy life, that's when you need your yoga. You know, yoga, because yoga brings me back to being in the present moment.
Mm.
And I know it sounds, I've had a journey of over 20 odd years, and I've done lots of study, lots of workshops. But what I've learned is I generate that back onto my mat all the time. And that is the kind of passion that I teach my students. Is I've got a couple of them, and I'm going, I think I need to send them a little WhatsApp, because they're sending me messages. I'm too busy for class. And I'm going to send them a message. This is when you need it. This is because what yoga has, and as a teacher, what I have done is I have built this community. So just as what you guys did for me is you welcomed me into this group, and I didn't know anybody. I'm not even from Cape Town. I was from Somerset West then. And I found this friendship. And I'm still, like yourself, Kay, Mary, Marie Elaine, we still connect all these lots of, and I think it's much longer than 10 years, Mina. I think I've done my training like 15, 16 years ago. So I'd say it's a bit longer than that. And I've been introduced to places like Ananda Couture, and going there and collecting my books and all the different Swamijis. And I put that so into my yoga mat. If that makes any sense.
100%.
And it's all these people, and what I find for yoga, and this is why I don't know why they tell you that as a faith, having a faith, Christian faith, you shouldn't step onto a yoga mat. I have met the most amazing students or people from around the world that come from completely different faiths. Just because we come from a different faith background, we meet each other on the yoga mat. And I love that, is that we have all these different mothers, but yet we come together as one consciousness. And if there's one thing I've learned through a lot of the books that I've read, and I do pass this on, like this week we're working with Matsyasana, the fish posture. But I've taken, and I'm sure you know the book well, is the yoga book by Swami Vivekananda. If I hopefully I've pronounced his name right. And he calls this, it's a divine posture, because it teaches us to breathe. And this is what I teach the students. It's not just about what the asana, it's about so much more. And it's a lifestyle. And I think that's what keeps me coming back onto my mat. It's a lifestyle. It's what you eat. It's who you connect with. It's what you breathe. That's why I love you guys, because we are so like-minded.
Well, this is it, isn't it? It's kind of like, no matter what your background is, what your religion, what your past has been, kind of like when you come to the mat, there's kind of like there's more similarity of what draws us together in the space that we're at than our differences. Like, we don't focus on the differences. We're focusing on the similarities of what we're all there for. I don't know. Does that make sense? Am I?
Yes, it absolutely does. That's it. And what I have done with my studio is I thought it all starts with me. And I always think of myself as I drop a pebble into a pond. I like to think of myself as a beautiful mandala, but anyway, and it drops into the pond and it spreads. But my students also little pebbles. So about a couple of years ago, I had one of my students who bought a big coffee company, and he's going, Jane, I need somebody to help me with the setup of this whole thing. Everything needs an update. So I said, well, hello. She does this. And they built this connection. And so I often get the students, I had another one the other day, said to, because I always try and encourage them to come a bit earlier so that they can connect. And nobody has a set place in their studio.
Yes.
Nobody sits, this is my spot. I even move, it's like, why are you at the back of the class today? Because I can, I make you think out of this brain a little bit. And so
because we are such creatures of habit so often, you know. I've had that
exactly.
before where you know, a person's come, you know, everyone kind of like tends to have their spots, you know, in the room, like their mat. And then you've got a new person who comes, might be early, and they kind of like, and I just say, sit wherever. And I had this happen once where like, it was so funny. I've actually got to demonstrate it. So this new person went and put the mat out, was sitting there peacefully talking. And then the regular student, like, you know, walked up to her mat and was standing there in front of this woman, locked up, and he goes, what? And this new like, what? And I'm like, no, 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 she was there first. You go find a new mat. And she was completely thrown because she was like now out of her little routine. But it was so good for her.
Mm. And sometimes you get a student that's quite a hard nut to crack because they do you dry. Don't tell me what not to do. And I remember we had the same situation with one of my yoga teachers had a long time student, bless his heart, and he also rolled out a new student arrived, and he literally lay down on top of the student. He literally rolled his yoga mat out. And it was like, it didn't matter how much you said to him, no, this isn't what yoga is about. It's like, break out the new habits, break out them, let's explore them.
Yes.
And
this, and
get a different view.
Yeah, we get so trained into our old habitual way of doing things. And to kind of like create new habits is so, so difficult. Not impossible, but it's just, we need a guide, a teacher, or someone to show us the way and to motivate us a little, to inspire us.
Absolutely.
And then,
absolutely.
then it's doable. And then we learn the new habit and we know how much better we feel. I mean, it's like with anything, you know, like the first time, you know, we had a green juice, or, you know, like that wasn't happening 20 years ago, like juice or whatever the story. But you kind of like do it and you learn how to do it. And then all of a sudden it just becomes something that is part of your life eventually.
Exactly. And it is. I mean, I look at some of my students that I have now, and I mean, some of them have been with me for like 15 years, and you become a family. And so once a year, what we do is, because I live in such a beautiful part of South Africa, is we have some most beautiful gardens. And the temperature wise can be quite leaning towards beautiful rose gardens and things. And so I get them all together once a year and we practice yoga together. And I have my Elton studio, I have my Somerset West students, and they all get to meet each other. And it's like, and then they see each other the following year. And even the one group, I always try and let the students catch up. And I'm going like, you haven't been to class on Monday. You know there's a class on Friday. What about the Wednesday class? Tuesday, Thursday evening? So I try and keep them coming, and then they get to know each other even further. And then you have to shift up. You can't sit in that corner because somebody who normally sits in that place is actually there already, and this isn't your class. But they get to know each other and they realize that they are a community. And then that spreads. So, yeah.
So what have you noticed kind of like with your students with regards to like coming to yoga and being in a community? Like, how has it helped them? I mean, you were chatting about the guy who had the coffee shop and met, I think someone like you were saying, like in marketing or something like, or business needed some support, and they were able to network. So like on a physical level, there's kind of like actual networking people together who need, you know, who need to be in contact and can support each other. And what else kind of like have you noticed how coming to class, being with people, no matter if we're from a diverse background, like how has it helped these women? Because I'm assuming like you're probably like me, where we have like a lot of, maybe 90% of our students are women. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely it. It has been, you know, because I do keep confidential what because I always have them fill a form in what's going on, and they know that if something has happened to them during their day or their week and I haven't seen them, I like them to just whisper in my ear, this is what's happened, so I know. And then for me, what I have found is I've had a student that has walked a particular path, and I will actually ask her permission. May I introduce her to somebody who's had the similar experience? And I have found that there are some deep relationships that have nothing to do with the studio any longer, that they've actually supported. And I mean, I'm talking major shifts like divorces, selling of house, cancer, which I haven't walked a lot of their paths, but I get their permission and they walk the path together. And I think when they come together and they realize that in a yoga studio, it's always a safe space.
Yes.
And I tell them, this is a safe space. I'm not going to judge you. If you cannot do a headstand, I can't do a proper headstand. I've got a neck injury and I make them know that.
Space.
And and it wasn't through yoga, so the birth defect, but it is, they know that the last person who's going to criticize them is themselves. So I'm not going to judge them. They are the ones that are going to say to themselves. And that is where I always split husband and wife if they do come to class, because you often find the wife is telling the husband, no, it's the other leg. Yes.
Yeah, I had that as well. Or mother and child. No, don't do it like that.
That exactly. Yeah. So I try to do split families, even if it's across the room, and I have one wife that still says, it's the other leg. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay, he's got two at the moment. All right.
Yeah, no judgment. So yeah, it is. And then it's just the chuckle. And what is so I love is when somebody is like doing trying to do a role and they can't do it and they lie in fits of laughter.
Yeah.
I love it. But what I also do love is where the mat meets you where you are. And I have had one student that might have confided in the other one. And this is what's nice, is often you see they're talking to each other. And I had one student whose mother had just passed. And I get quite emotional just thinking of it. And the person that she confided with got up, put her into Shavasana, covered her with a blanket, and let her stay there. And it was only afterwards did she turn around and tell me that she had lost her mother. But she hadn't told me when she came in because she wasn't in the place.
Yeah.
But she told the person next to her that I'd just lost my mum. And halfway through this class, I saw she was white batting, but I didn't know why. The person next to her saw her, she was batting.
Exactly why. Knew exactly what to do.
And that is what I love about why I do what I do.
And that is so empowering, Jane, and I congratulate that, where it's like empowering to the other students in the class where they can see, they know, they sense what another person needs in that time, and they're not embarrassed, they're not scared, they're not resistant to going against the flow of the class and getting that person into a position or making them feel what it is that they need in that particular time. And I think that speaks mountains for you as a yoga teacher with regards to when other students in the class have got that kind of like the strength of the ability, the being allowed to do what they know is right.
Exactly. And it's just taking the time to pass a little foam block, or make sure, just say, I see you need and something for your knees. Nobody takes that as, because I do it, nobody takes that as, well, you're not doing it well enough, or there's none of that. And then once they roll up their mats, I often watch them walk down the road and they stand on the corner and they chat. And they might, often I found that they've gone out for coffee.
Yeah.
And so what they learn on the yoga mat, that sense of compassion, that sense of love, that sense of nurturing for themselves, they allow it to go out into the world.
Yeah.
And
I've seen that so much with kind of like my studio in Cape Town as well, when I still teach. There's that like afterwards, kind of like after the studio and now, you know, everyone would have left, and then, you know, I'm packing up and I'm kind of closing the garage door, and I kind of like peek out, and like half an hour later there's still two people standing at the door talking away, you know, going on about it. And it's kind of like, it's exactly what you're saying about, you know, when you're taking the practices from the mat and you're now living them. So kind of like one of those things is like that deep listening, that ability to listen deeply. So being able to listen deeply to yourself. And I think when you start learning to like listen deeply to yourself, you're so more inclined to start listening more deeply to other people as well, and to hearing what they have to say. And you're interested in what they're having to say, not necessarily in the sense that you want to fix it or solve it for them, but that you're just an ear for them. Realizing that, you know, sometimes we can't go to our parents, we can't go to our kids, we can't go to our partners, we don't want to go to a therapist to talk about maybe a very mundane thing that has upset us or has, you know, shifted us somewhat. And maybe it's just the friend at yoga who's not going to judge us, who we need to listen to, or will be able to listen to us.
No, yes, it's working really well. And I sit back sometimes and it gives me great, not pleasure, but it's a love that, you know, during COVID it was so difficult because I wasn't allowed to hug anybody. You know, this doesn't work for me. So they still got their hugs.
Yeah.
And we
important.
They still got their hugs, and you can always tell when somebody comes in and they still get their hugs, or they just walk straight into me. I'm a tall person, and they still walk in and they still get their hugs. And no,
I love it. I love it. Jane, so like kind of like before we have to like wrap up here, because I could speak to you for hours, because I know we could go on.
No, exactly.
Tell me, have you ever been like gone through in your 20 years of kind of like, you know, learning yoga, playing with yoga, teaching yoga, exploring yoga? Have you ever had like days, times, weeks, months where like yoga hasn't really been a practice on the mat for you, where it's kind of like...
No, absolutely. You know, when, say in Chris, do have a time when I actually do take a month off my mat. I literally do. I roll it up. I still practice yoga. I still do my chanting, but I walk. I change it. You need to. I change, and if I do, I might do a little practice, but because this is what I do all the time. But there is a time, and I must say, in the 15 or odd years when I take my month off. But other than that, I haven't really not done yoga. But I will tell you, at the beginning, when I was still, before I became a yoga teacher or teacher of yoga, there was a time in my life where I had a really, really bad time. And it was actually just before I did my yoga, and this is yoga teachers, is I had a yoga teacher, and she just said to me, Jane, even if you are having a really, really bad day, I want you to show up. All I want you to do is come, unroll your mat. We'll put you into a child position. We will lie you on your tummy. I will cover you completely with blankets, so nobody even knows that you're there. I want you to show up. And that is what I did. And sometimes my mind became so busy that she sort of knew when I was getting up, and she knew I would leave. But it's just the fact that I showed up 90% of the time. and I might have lay on the mat 70% of the time, not doing any asana, just lying in shavasana, even if it was just crying. And she would put me in such a place every now and again. She'd come and put my hand here on my shoulder, or just she would sometimes sit with her hands, teach the class and put her hands on my head. But show up, even if you are having a difficult time. Connect with the teacher. If there's one thing I can say is find the teacher that resonates with you.
That's such a big thing, kind of like with all the yoga teachers, and there's so many people out there, you know, and there's so many quick things that you can do, but it's that, you know, finding someone you really resonate with and that you can connect with is vital.
Do a month. You know, your teacher should find a teacher, say, can you give me a free class? Let's see if we resonate. Do a month of the class, and if it doesn't, then if you say, well, it's not resonating with me, do you know of somebody else? Your teacher should connect to all the teachers in your area. And this is what I have started to do, is we've done it for years in South West, but I get hold of the teachers, like I just started with the other teachers, which you know, and we connect. This one needs somebody to, we connect with the other teachers. So we go, well, I don't resonate, but can I connect you to somebody else who you might resonate with? And so that they still find a practice on a mat somewhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be with you. So for us teachers, we've got to learn to do this ebb and flow. We've got to learn to let go. Because we are just facilitators at the end of the day.
Exactly. And I love that story because it reminds me, I literally do that so often as well, especially when I was kind of like teaching back home. Is I'd have a new student come, I'd say, listen, I've been teaching yoga for a long time, which is all fair and good, but I'm not the only yoga teacher, and I have a specific style or way that I teach. And it might not be for you. It is for a lot of people, but it might not be for you. And I don't want you to, after the class, go home and say, I really didn't like yoga. It's not for me at all. If you find that how I'm teaching or the way I'm teaching, you're not resonating with, please let me know. Tell me what it is that you liked and what it is you didn't like, because then I can put you in contact with the person who I think you will enjoy better or learn from.
This is it. Please, I'm not offended. You know, it's nothing to do with me. It's about your practice. And we will find you the right teacher.
And you know, exactly. That's it. And I haven't had it happen often. I've had it maybe happen once or twice where someone's come and said, you know, or even just emailed me after and said, I don't think it's quite for me. And I've connected them with someone who is better, because kind of like, I'm more hatha style. I like slow. I like therapeutic. That's my thing. And someone was like, I need something more fast paced. I need vinyasa. I knew exactly who to send it to, what area, you know, we were in. And then about 7 years later, I got an email from her again, said, I'm done with that. I need to come do your style of yoga. Please, can I come back? I'm like, of course, 100%. And that's it. Like, if you have that open communication, and that flexibility, that when the student is right, they're going to find the right teacher for them.
And know your students, know them. And another thing I always like to do is remember, even if they're past students, just to know that I still know and I still hear, I send them birthday wishes.
Oh, beautiful.
You know, it's all these little, I'm still thinking of you. If they cross my mind, I will send them a message, still thinking of you. And how many of them come away, like you say, and they come back, and they'll go and they come back, and they might move and they come back, and then, or they might move to a completely other side of South Africa or wherever they are, and they go, do you know the teacher? I go, I will find one. That at least can get you into that.
Love it. Oh, Jane, it's always so lovely speaking to you. It's so uplifting. I think that's what it is. It's like this little rebel in you is like, she's like such a pure, awesome rebel. I love her.
I will not I will not stick to the norm.
No. Out of all the people and all the yoga teachers I know, you will not. And that's one thing I love about you. And it's also, you're not scared to kind of like, I can't quite say it's a wicked side, but show that like, that I call it your biker side of you, because I know you're not really biking much now, but it's kind of like, that's how I remember you as, and
Yes,
kind of
yes.
like that side. So tell me, what are you like excited for in the upcoming year, like 2023? What are you super excited for?
I actually, to be honest with you, if you asked me a couple of years ago what was my 5-year plan, I'd most probably have given it to you. If you'd asked me 3 years ago what was my 2-year plan, because that's got, okay, 2-year plan. And if you ask me what I'm doing next week, it would be no idea. So it's just doing what I do and growing in who I am. And I always try and learn something every year, and I try and do courses, or I always looking for workshops, lovely workshops, different forms and styles of yoga. I don't know, it's like I'm an open book. For me, I love the warrior 2, Biker-Yogi number 2, because it teaches you when you're standing in that wonderful posture, and you can surely demonstrate it, is when you're standing in that posture, you've got the past, you've got the present, and you've got the future. And when you do the reverse one, you lift up the arm and you go, what? That's what my future looks like. That's where you find me.
Reverse warrior.
So I have no 2023. Whatever happens will happen.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Well, all we know is that you're definitely going to be warrioring it up in style.
Absolutely.
Every time I do reverse warrior now, I'm going to be thinking of you. And
yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And beyond the stars.
And beyond the stars. That's it. Always looking up and further on. So fantastic. Love it. Jane, Breathe Alive, how do people find you? How can they get a hold of you? I also know you have some YouTube classes that people can peek into to find out if they resonate with your style of yoga.
Well, there you can. I am Jane, and I actually must be honest with you, it's a bit confusing because my son does all of this for me. But it's Jane at Jane Breathe Alive, and you can find me on Google, breathealive.co.za. Jane, you can Google Jane, breathealive.co.za. You can find my www.breathealive.co.za. So yeah.
Cool. And we'll stick all of those. I'll stick those all in my show notes.
Jane yoga teacher. Yes.
Fantastic.
And then you can just send me a WhatsApp message and then I'll get back to you.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for being the most awesome, awesome, awesome human that you are. Absolutely love you. Thank you for everything you do for your students and for yoga community as a whole. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.